It's Kenan. Today we're going to be doing a short little review of Discraft's new Malta from the Paul McBeth line. It's the first mid-range that they're releasing under Paul's signature series. Actually, not his signature. I don't know what they're calling it, because he has the Buzz, which is his signature disc. But these are his own line of discs. But yes, this is the first mid that has come out from Discraft. I just got a hold of one. I couldn't get one whenever the protos were released, and this is the first example of the new, like, the brake pattern in the ESP plastic that they're doing. ESP is the only plastic this comes in. These first run discs run around $18, $18 to $20, somewhere in that price range. Different retailers have them for different prices. And the first thing that I noticed about this disc is that it feels nearly identical to this, which is a Rock 3. Essentially, if you were to shrink the Rock 3 down by like 2 or 3%, you'd get what feels nearly identical to a Malta. So what I thought was, since I'm here on a course by myself essentially, I'll throw a few shots with it, see how it flies, and put some commentary over those shots to let you guys know what I think. And at the end, I will give my overall thoughts of the disc, whether I recommend it to other people to buy, and just my overall thoughts of the disc. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy, and let's get to the shots. So first up, we have flex lines. My fat head gets in the way of the second shot here, but the Malta's up first. And I'm trying to throw it between those two trees, which it does, and I kind of get in the way of it, but you can see it finish there between the trees. For comparison, I'm throwing the Rock 3 on all the same shots I throw the Malta. Same line, as best as I can match them just to see where they land in comparison to each other. Those were within 3 feet of each other when they landed. Next we have the Hyzer Line. Malta up first, as it will be. There was a slight right to left wind, but the Malta handles it pretty stinking well. It doesn't really move. The Rock, on the other hand, I release a little bit higher and it gets carried a little bit further left, but it still finds the integrity to finish, and they land within 10 feet of each other. On a flat release now, Malta first. Trying to throw left of that clump of trees in the middle of this fairway. Not necessarily trying to get it to finish to the right, but just to throw it gentle and straight. These aren't very high power shots, but you can see it finish out there. There's not a lot of wind in these woods, but the Rock 3, trying to just match the same shot. Threw it a little bit tighter to the trees than the Malta did, but those were within 3 feet of each other whenever I found them, and the lines were pretty close. So now with some power behind them, I'm aiming at that tree in the shadows in the background, and actually hit it with the Malta, and you can see it kick right there. But the Malta actually handles power pretty well, whereas the Rock 3 actually, as you'll see here, Hyzer flips a little bit. I'm aiming at the same tree and hit the same tree in basically the same spot, and in a second, as I was walking up there, I mean, these were flying at almost 300 feet, and you can see they landed within not even 4 feet of each other whenever I walked up to them, which is pretty cool. So now I decided to do a headwind shot. This is like 15 mile an hour headwind. The Malta doesn't even register. It just stays true to its line and finishes strong. The Rock 3 flips just a little bit, but again has the integrity to finish, much like you would expect it to. So what's the verdict? The Malta, compared to the Rock 3, every single shot I threw at them, they landed within like 15 feet of each other if I managed to match the lines. Hello, this is Future Kenan here. I just wanted to point out that traditionally I would like to review every product in a vacuum that is not compared to existing, molds on the market and stuff of that nature. But in this case, from like the second that I touched the Malta, even without like seeing any comments online or seeing anything else, I immediately knew what it felt like, because I've thrown rocks for like Rock 3s specifically since I've started playing, really. And just because they behave so similarly and feel so similarly to me, I thought it was appropriate to compare the two directly, as they seem to be just that similar of product.
So hopefully that makes sense. For future reviews, I'll do my best to review everything in a vacuum instead of comparing it directly to other counterparts, because I understand that a lot of manufacturers can't produce molds that are completely unique, and that's understandable. It's just that these two are so similar whenever I felt them that I, felt the need to compare them directly. So I just wanted to clarify that.
And when I say match the lines, I, of course, as I've mentioned, I'm not trying to force them to land next to each other. I'm just trying to release them at the same speed, height, and angle, and they just sort of naturally funnel into the same general area as each other. The key differences between the Malta and the Rock, though, the Rock feels just a tad bit deeper. Like I said at the beginning of the video, it is basically, they feel the same in terms of profile. The Rock is just slightly larger. It's deeper, it has a thicker rim, and it obviously has a larger diameter. So if you like the smaller diameter feel of the Malta, it might be more conducive to like forehanding. But these first runs are slightly domier than the Protos, I've heard. So maybe a Proto would be better for forehanding than these are, but this one feels sort of comfortable. I tend not to forehand mids myself, so I didn't include any of those shots because they would have looked awful. But just in general, the question then comes down to, is it worth the $18 or $20 that Discraft is going to charge when Innova has basically the same disc for a couple dollars cheaper? And essentially that comes down to personal preference. I really like both of these discs. I don't have I prefer the feel of the Rock 3 better, only because I like a deeper mid-range whenever I'm throwing backhand, but the Malta seem to handle wind a little bit better, even though these both are the same weight. It's a touch more overstable than the Rock 3, but not significant enough that I would, hang your hat on that difference between the two. They feel very similar. They both feel very easy to release. They both fly pretty similar to each other. So essentially, if you don't mind the Paul McBeth premium of a couple extra dollars to get really pretty plastic and a pretty neat looking stamp, I suppose, it should slot in your bag in the same spot as a Rock 3 or any other generally overstable mid-range that isn't necessarily a meat hook. It can fly straight, it's very workable, you can turn it over, you can throw it on Hyzer, and it will never stand up and flip over on you. I've thrown both of these in some pretty significant wind, I'm sure, as you can hear, and they both held up pretty well. Hopefully I can get my hands on another one of these, or maybe a Proto one at some point to see the difference between the two, because Paul did comment on the fact that the Protos were much more overstable than the first runs, because a lot of people complained about that apparently. So yeah, out of 10, the Malta I would rate somewhere similarly to the Rock 3. The Rock 3 usually I give right around a 9 or a 9.5. I think it's one of the better discs that are made. So the Malta I will give an 8.5 out of 10. Strictly because it's a mold that has been tried and true for a really long time. Discraft isn't reinventing the wheel with this mold. They just made it slightly smaller than Innova does. But the plastic feels like a very good quality. It looks very pretty. They fly very consistently, and I think it could slot into a lot of people's bags. So I would recommend it in a solid 8.5 out of 10. So if you guys enjoyed watching this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. If you have any recommendations for discs you want to see reviewed in the future, let me know. I have quite a few sitting on my shelf that I could probably do reviews for. Hopefully you found this useful. If you have any suggestions, please be sure to leave those below as well, in terms of what I can do differently in these videos. But yeah, aside from that, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Thank you.